Okay, this video is about the Cathedral of Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Our Lady it means in French, in Paris, France. And it's one of the most famous cathedrals in the entire world. Here's a beautiful photograph of it. It's located on an island in the middle of the Seine River, right next to where the royalty used to be located. It's been around since the mid-1200s, and it's sort of a cultural landmark in Paris and all of Europe. It's really the heart of France, and in a sense, it's the heart of Europe. A magnificent church. You know, you can see the flying buttresses to support the walls coming out here on the sides. Here's one of the rose windows. These are the towers in front, the front facades over there. The Seine River is right down in below. Okay, just the shape of a cathedral here. It's shaped like a Latin cross. So here's the elongated part. So that would be like where Jesus' head was, where Jesus' feet was. And then the side parts that come out, that's called the transept. This is called the nave. Okay. It's a typical shape of a cathedral. When a cathedral's built, they build the buttresses first, because it's going to have an arch. And the arch of the ceiling, for example, that puts a lot of pressure outward. And in order to maintain the thin walls through which they can put the windows to let all the light in, because that's one of the highlights of a cathedral, all the sunlight that comes in, they need these buttresses, like the flying buttresses were first developed actually at Notre Dame Church. Okay. So again, it was started to being built in the 1100s and then finished in the 1200s. That's not uncommon that these cathedrals would take over 100 years to build. And it shows you what faith they had, that it was worth their effort to start working on something that would take 100 years to build. The projects were supervised by a master mason. They had incredible skill, and they made all these statues, and they didn't even sign their names to them. Okay, they're just honored to be a part of it. And again, the cathedrals are magnificent, the greatest buildings ever made in the history of the world. They're made by free men. When you compare them to something like a pyramid, you know, a pyramid's made by a bunch of slaves, okay? You don't need to be, you know, that creative to make a triangle, okay? There's nothing can compare to this, and it's more spectacular given that they made these things back in the 1100s, the 1200s. Okay. Other civilizations, they're still living in teepees, okay? And these guys are making cathedrals in Europe. Here is the coronation of Napoleon in 1804, painting by Jacques-Louis David. And, you know, it's in the center. There's been a lot of other major events in the history of France celebrated in the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Cathedral means in Latin the seat of the bishop. So it's the seat of the bishop in Paris, okay? And that's sort of that Enlightenment style, okay? And now here I just want to show you something from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which was a great novel by Victor Hugo when he was still a young man. It was published in 1831, and it really honored the Cathedral of Notre Dame as being really a national landmark and sort of the heart, again, of Paris. And this was very valuable because it got everybody enthusiastic once again about Notre Dame Cathedral, and there was a big restoration project that improved the appearance of it. So this is Quasimodo the Hunchback, and he was in love with Esmeralda, you know, the gypsy dancer lady. It was a very nice lady. I read the book. It was a magnificent book. You know, she rejected him, of course. She wasn't, but, you know, she had respect for him, and he was an ugly guy. And then there was the Archdeacon Claude Frodo, who was in love with her, and she rejected him too. He was a bit of an evil guy, but one of the key points of the book was Quasimodo was good. He really loved her. He honored the, the spirit of the law, if you will, whereas Frodo did not. Maybe the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law, certainly. And it's a rather shocking ending. Here's her, playing around with her pet goat. But it's a magnificent book. I mean, there's a lot of scenes in there. Victor Hugo just builds the tension in an extraordinary way. Okay, here is Kenneth Clark, and he made the real famous book in video series through the BBC of Civilization, where he went to all the greatest landmarks of civilization. Of course, the Vatican, Michelangelo's, painting the creation of Adam, and Raphael's The School of Athens, which you can see right back here. But anyways, the spectacular Notre Dame on the Seine River and whatnot. And it's really, the heart of Europe. It's a big deal. It's sort of a startling building. There's been tons of painting in it. I'm just going to show you two of the best ones. Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris by Auguste von Siegen in 1894. But there's like 100 different paintings of this that are pretty decent paintings. So, it's beautiful. It's magnificent. It's archetypal, prototypic. Here's another one. This one is by Firmin Gérard, another painting. The two towers there, the central spire in the center of the transept. The three doors. Okay, you can see the flying buttresses to support the arches inside. They come out looking like the oars on a ship. And again, they were invented at Notre Dame. And here's just an example of the beautiful statuary with the faces of the angels. Christianity is full of this. In Christianity, we take beautiful artwork for granted. No other culture does this, okay? That's why another reason why, again, Christians need to stop apologizing for Christianity. It's the best. Anybody's welcome. Anybody can say, I want to be a Christian. It is the most inclusive of all religions. There's no other religion like it, okay? It's also the most beautiful. It produces 99.9% of all the beautiful art. The other religions produce hardly any. It produces the best literature, the best architecture, the best music. It's the best. The reason why the billionaire perverts hate it is because they know as long as there's Christianity on this planet, people will resist them and will resist slavery. Christianity says all men are equal in the eyes of God. Okay? We can make all this beauty. What can you make with your BS modern art places? Okay, well, it's important to realize this because the young generation doesn't know about this. So I'm making these videos to teach them, plus whoever else wants to see it. You'll just see one after another spectacular beauties. Okay, here's the front facade of Notre Dame. Here's the rose window. And you can see, the ground level of the doors, and you see there's a balcony up there. People can walk around. The gargoyles are sort of, the idea of the demons outside the church that exist, and they really do exist in life. And they're also, of course, drain spouts to, have the water drain off. And it was built relatively quickly with good funding, so it's relatively symmetrical. 100 years is pretty fast. They had pretty good funding from, the kings of France and other merchants. These right here is the row of kings from the Old Testament located above the front doors. And the French Rev, back in the 1790s, they took these to be French kings and they destroyed them. They've been replaced, though. Okay, and the Last Judgment there. Each theme, the statues tell the themes of the Bible. So it's like a visual Bible to teach people about Christianity. And here is the rose window. Okay, I'll have a better close-up picture of it in just one sec. So here's just a look at it from the inside, but let me get a better picture here. Okay, isn't that beautiful? So there is the Virgin Mary with the child Jesus in her lap. And again, it'll tell the story. This is the rose window, and they let in lots of light. The walls are thin because they're supported by the flying buttresses, so they can let in a lot of light. And they're quite spectacular. The high ceiling looks to God. And here, of course, is the terrible fire of 2019, which I wouldn't be surprised if the Cow Moon, you know who they are, East, set it on purpose. But luckily, the entire cathedral was not destroyed. Here's another look at the picture. So it was quite a fire. It did do a lot of damage. You can get another look. Look what it's doing there to the roof. But Christianity is often attacked and it bounces back. So it has been restored and it is now reopened to the public. And they did clean it up some more too. So here's the startling high roofs. The towers themselves are about 223 feet high. So it's relatively beautiful. One thing I would say is France has the best cathedral structure, the best outside appearance, the best front door, statuary, facades, and rose windows and all that. But I think Italy has the best indoor. Italy's got more fresco paintings combined with the altar painting and statuary. So I think they're better at that. But of course, the French cathedrals on the outside are magnificent. Wait till you see Chartres. It's even more beautiful. They're spectacular. So here's inside of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, the heart of Paris. Okay. And okay, here was, at the opening of it, here was the reopening. Here's the current ruler of France, and that's his transvestite wife. The big guy was there too, which is good. It's good that he went out there for the reopening of it. So anyways, let us hope that France is able to save itself. Let us hope that Christianity will come back to Europe, that it'll realize its greatness, its birthplace, and try to save it? I hope so.